The chamber stretched so far that its walls disappeared into darkness. Ambassador James Carter stood perfectly still in the center of a glowing platform, suspended by invisible forces above an ocean of alien faces. Around him, arranged in rings that climbed toward the ceiling like a massive amphitheater, sat representatives from over 300 different species. Some had scales, others had fur, many were just floating clouds of gas or crystalline formations that pulsed with inner light. The air hummed with translated voices in thousands of languages. James had never felt so small. Next to him stood Dr. Lisa Morgan, a xenobiologist, and General Robert Hayes, their military advisor. All three humans wore simple gray uniforms with no weapons, no technology that could be seen as threatening. They were supposed to look harmless. A voice boomed through the chamber, seeming to come from everywhere at once. It belonged to the High Chancellor, a being that looked like living electricity contained in a vaguely humanoid shape. Humanity, you stand before the Galactic Council. Do you understand why you have been summoned? James cleared his throat. His voice was amplified somehow, reaching every corner of the massive space. We were told this was a diplomatic introduction. A welcoming ceremony for new spacefaring species. Laughter erupted from the alien representatives. It sounded like breaking glass mixed with animal howls and mechanical grinding. The High Chancellor raised what might have been a hand, and silence fell instantly. Welcome, the Chancellor repeated. No, you are here to answer for your crimes. James felt his stomach drop, but he kept his face calm. What crimes? We have been peaceful. We have not attacked anyone. A new voice spoke, this one belonging to a massive creature with 6 arms covered in blue scales. You lie. Your ships have been detected in 15 restricted zones. You have stolen resources from protected systems. You have violated the non-interference protocol 17 times. We have done no such thing, Lisa said firmly. Our ships have remained in our home system for the past 50 years. We have barely explored beyond our own star. More lies, hissed a snake-like being with dozens of eyes. We have evidence, recordings, data logs. Human ships operating in forbidden space. General Hayes spoke for the first time, his voice rough but controlled. Then show us this evidence. The chamber darkened. Holographic images appeared in the air, showing sleek spacecraft with human markings moving through space, entering systems marked with warning symbols, taking materials from asteroids in protected zones. The footage was clear, undeniable. James stared at the images, his mind racing. Those were definitely human ships, but something was wrong. The designs were too advanced. Humanity had barely mastered faster-than-light travel 5 decades ago, and these ships moved with technology far beyond their current capabilities. We have never built ships like those, James said carefully. That technology is not ours, so you deny reality itself? The High Chancellor's electrical form crackled with anger. These ships carry human identification codes. They respond to human communication protocols. They are crewed by humans. May I see the identification codes? Lisa asked, a pause. Then the data appeared floating in front of them. Lisa studied it for several seconds, her eyes moving rapidly. Then she smiled just slightly. These codes are fake, she said. Look at the timestamp structure. Humans use a base 24-hour system for our clocks. These codes use base 26. Small difference, easy to miss if you are not human, but it proves these ships were not made by us. Murmurs rippled through the assembled aliens. The High Chancellor leaned forward, its form becoming more intense. You suggest someone is impersonating your species? For what purpose? That is an excellent question, James said. One we would very much like answered. Who benefits from making humanity look aggressive? Who wants the Council to view us as criminals? More murmurs, louder now. Several alien representatives began arguing among themselves. General Hayes added, We have been monitoring our borders carefully. No human ships have left our control for 3 years. Every vessel is accounted for. Either this footage is fabricated or someone else built ships designed to look human. Preposterous, snapped the blue-scaled creature. Why would anyone go to such effort? To start a war, Lisa said quietly. To make the Council destroy humanity before we become strong enough to defend ourselves. Or perhaps to distract the Council from something else entirely. The chamber erupted in chaos. Aliens shouted at each other in hundreds of languages. Some pointed accusingly at the humans, others at their fellow council members. The High Chancellor struggled to restore order. Finally, a new voice cut through the noise. It was calm, ancient, and carried weight that made everyone fall silent immediately. The humans speak truth. All eyes turned to the source. An elderly alien, hunched and covered in what looked like tree bark, rose slowly from its seat. James recognized the species from his briefing materials. The eldest ones, the first race to achieve space travel, the founders of the council itself. Elder Tom, the High Chancellor said with obvious respect. You have evidence? I have memory, the old being replied. This has happened before. 600 cycles ago, the Krenth were accused of similar crimes. False evidence, manipulated data. The council nearly destroyed them. Only investigation revealed the truth. Another species, jealous of Krenth growth, had orchestrated the deception. Are you suggesting this is a pattern? James asked carefully. Elder Tom's ancient eyes fixed on him. I am suggesting the council has enemies, powerful ones who understand our laws, our procedures, our prejudices. They know we react first to new species, judge them quickly, eliminate threats before they mature. Someone wants humanity eliminated. The question is who? The High Chancellor's electrical form dimmed slightly, as if in thought. This is a serious accusation, Elder. If true, it suggests corruption within the council itself. Or outside it, General Hayes said. Someone with access to your systems but not loyalty to your cause. Impossible, the blue-scaled alien protested. Our security is perfect. No one can penetrate council networks without authorization. Lisa smiled again, wider this time. General, would you like to show them? Hayes nodded. He reached into his pocket slowly, making sure everyone saw he was not drawing a weapon. He pulled out a small device, no bigger than his thumb. This, he said, is a standard human data storage unit. Basic technology, nothing fancy. It contains every classified council communication from the past month. Trade agreements, military deployments, secret votes, personal messages between representatives. Everything. The chamber went absolutely silent. Several aliens stood up in shock. That is not possible, the High Chancellor said, but its voice wavered. It was incredibly easy, Hayes continued. Your encryption is sophisticated, yes, but it follows logical patterns. Predictable mathematics. Humans are not as advanced as you in most technology, but we excel at one thing above all others. We are very, very good at breaking codes. You hacked the Galactic Council. The blue-scaled alien sounded horrified. 2 months ago, James confirmed. As soon as we received the first accusation against us, we decided to investigate. We broke into your systems to find out who was framing us, and we found something much more interesting. He gestured, and Lisa activated her own device. New images appeared in the air. Financial records, communication logs, evidence of bribes, secret deals, manipulated votes. The council was not the perfect democratic institution it claimed to be. It was riddled with corruption. You dare, the High Chancellor began, but Elder Tom raised one branch-like arm. They dare because they must, the old alien said. They face extinction on false charges. Of course they investigated. The question is not their methods, but their findings. Is this data accurate? It is, said several aliens simultaneously, looking ashamed. James took a deep breath. This was the dangerous part. We did not come here to expose your corruption. We came to offer a deal. We will keep your secrets. We will say nothing about what we found. But in exchange, you will leave humanity alone. You will drop these false charges. You will give us time to grow, to develop, to become a proper member of the galactic community. You are blackmailing the Galactic Council, the High Chancellor said slowly. We are negotiating, James corrected. Like adults. Like equals. We have information you do not want released. You have power we cannot match, so we make a trade. Mutually beneficial. And if we refuse, the blue-scaled alien demanded. If we simply destroy your world to protect our secrets? Then the data releases automatically, Lisa said. We are not stupid. Multiple copies exist, hidden throughout the galaxy, with instructions to broadcast everything if we die. You cannot stop it. The silence stretched on. Every alien in the chamber was calculating, weighing options, considering consequences. Finally, Elder Tom laughed. It was a strange sound, like wind through leaves. I like them. They have courage, intelligence. They remind me of us, back when we were young and foolish enough to challenge the universe. The High Chancellor's form flickered. This is unprecedented. Good, James said. Precedent is just another word for doing the same thing over and expecting different results. Humanity is different. We think differently. We act differently, and we refuse to be judged by a system we did not create and do not control. 48 years had passed since the deal was made. The galaxy had almost forgotten about humanity, tucked away in their small corner of space, supposedly developing in isolation. The Galactic Council had grown comfortable again, settling back into its routine of managing thousands of worlds, mediating disputes, and maintaining the established order. Commander Talon was reviewing routine patrol reports when the alert came through. She was a Vexer, a species known for military precision, with 4 arms and skin that changed color based on her mood. Right now it was flickering between green and yellow, curiosity mixed with confusion. "What is this?" she asked her second officer, Lieutenant Carr. "Unknown vessels," Carr replied, his insectoid features clicking nervously. 37 ships just appeared at the edge of Council space. They are requesting permission to approach the central station. Identification? They claim to be human. Talon's skin flashed bright red, alarm. Humans, but they are restricted to their system. The agreement specifically forbids them from entering Council space for another 2 years. They say the agreement was for 50 years, and it has been almost 50 years. They are here to renegotiate. It cannot be 50 years already, Talon said. But even as she spoke, she checked the chronometer. Her skin went pale. The lieutenant was right. Somehow, 5 decades had passed faster than she realized. "Let me see these ships." The view screen activated, showing the human fleet. Talon felt her secondary heart skip a beat. These were not the primitive vessels humanity had possessed 50 years ago. These ships were sleek, massive, and clearly armed with technology that made them look more advanced than most Council military craft. "How is this possible?" Carr whispered. Talon activated the communication channel. "Human vessels, this is Commander Talon of the Council Defense Fleet. You are 2 years early for your scheduled reintegration meeting. Please state your intentions." A face appeared on the screen. It was a human woman, perhaps 50 years old in human terms, with gray hair pulled back in a tight knot and eyes that seemed to see through everything. She wore a uniform that was both practical and intimidating. "Commander Talon," the woman said with a slight smile, "I am Admiral Kate Foster of the Human Federation. We are aware we are early. We decided to adjust our timeline." "You cannot simply adjust agreements," Talon protested. "The Council must approve any changes." "The Council can approve or disapprove as they wish," Foster said calmly. "But we are here now. We have 37 diplomatic vessels, all unarmed, requesting permission to dock and begin negotiations. Will you deny us?" Talon's skin flickered through several colors as she thought. Technically, the humans were in violation of their agreement, but they claimed to be unarmed, and they were asking permission rather than demanding entrance. Denying them would create an incident. Allowing them might reveal important information about what humanity had been doing for 50 years. "Hold position," Talon ordered. "I must consult with my superiors." "We will wait," Foster agreed. "But, Commander?" "I suggest you hurry. We have a schedule to keep." The communication ended. Talon immediately contacted the Council headquarters, sending an emergency report. Within minutes, she received her response. The High Chancellor itself was responding, which almost never happened for routine matters. "Allow them to dock," the Chancellor's message read, "but monitor them closely. Station maximum security at all entry points. We need to know what humanity has become." 3 hours later, the human ships docked at Central Station, the massive hub that served as the Council's primary meeting place. Talon watched from the security center as the humans disembarked. There were 200 of them, all wearing identical gray uniforms, all moving with military precision. They showed no fear, no hesitation, no signs of being overwhelmed by the station's size or the presence of thousands of alien species. Admiral Foster led the group directly to the main diplomatic hall, as if she had been there many times before. Talon found that disturbing. How did Foster know the layout of a station she should never have visited? The diplomatic hall was smaller than the grand chamber where humanity had been judged 50 years ago, but it was still impressive. Representatives from the council's inner circle were assembled, including several who had been present at the original meeting. Elder Tom sat in his corner, looking even more ancient but still alert. The High Chancellor materialized in its customary position, electrical form crackling with energy. Humanity returns. 2 years early and with a fleet at your back. Explain. Admiral Foster stepped forward, alone. The other humans remained by the entrance, silent and watchful. We come early because waiting another 2 years serves no purpose, Foster said simply. We have done what we promised. We developed our civilization. We grew stronger. We prepared ourselves. Now we are ready to discuss our place in the galaxy. Prepared yourselves for what? Asked Commander Vrix, a crystalline being who served as the Council's chief military advisor. The agreement was for peaceful development, not military buildup. The agreement was to leave us alone, Foster corrected. What we did during that time was our business. And yes, we prepared for war, because we learned something 50 years ago. The galaxy is not a safe place. The Council is not as benevolent as it claims. We would be fools to remain weak. Murmurs rippled through the assembled representatives. Several looked angry, others thoughtful. You accuse us again, the High Chancellor said. First you exposed our corruption. Now you suggest we are a threat. Why should we tolerate this disrespect? Foster smiled, and it was not a pleasant expression. Because you have no choice. We are not the frightened newcomers who stood here 50 years ago. We are not asking for permission. We are informing you of reality. Bold words, Vrix said, its crystalline form glowing brighter with anger. Your fleet numbers 37 ships. The Council commands millions. What makes you think you can dictate terms to us? Because those 37 ships are not our fleet, Foster replied. They are our diplomatic mission. Our actual fleet is somewhere else entirely, doing something much more important. Talon felt a chill run through her. She activated her comm unit, quickly checking sensor reports. Nothing unusual appeared in Council space. But that meant nothing if the humans had learned to mask their presence. Where is your fleet? The Chancellor demanded. Around your homeworlds, Foster said casually. All 300 of your primary planets. We have ships in orbit around each one, all arrived within the past hour, all carrying enough firepower to sterilize a continent. They are not attacking, not threatening, just watching. Reminding you that humanity can reach you whenever we choose. The diplomatic hall exploded into chaos. Representatives shouted in dozens of languages. Several reached for communication devices to contact their home systems. Security alarms began blaring throughout the station. Foster waited patiently for the noise to die down. It took nearly 10 minutes. You dare, Vrix finally said, voice trembling with rage. We dare, Foster agreed. Just as you dared to judge us 50 years ago. Just as you dared to threaten us with extinction for crimes we did not commit. We learned from you. We learned that in galactic politics, strength is the only currency that matters. So we became strong. How? Elder Tom asked quietly. 50 years is not enough time to develop technology that surpasses civilizations millions of years old. How did you advance so quickly? Foster turned to look at the ancient being. Elder Tom, the only one who spoke in our defense all those years ago. The only one who saw potential instead of threat. Would you like the truth? Always. We cheated, Foster said simply. Humans are very good at cheating. We found shortcuts. We broke rules we did not agree to follow. We ignored limitations that others considered absolute. She activated a holographic display, showing complex equations and designs that made several of the alien scientists gasp. This is quantum folding technology, Foster explained. It allows ships to jump between points in space without using conventional faster-than-light drives. You told us FTL travel required massive energy expenditures and took days to calculate safe routes. You were wrong. It only requires that method because you insist on following safety protocols designed millions of years ago. We ignored those protocols. We accepted higher risks, and we developed technology in 5 years that you claimed would take millennia. You risked destroying your entire species with experimental technology? The Chancellor said, sounding shocked. We risked extinction if we stayed weak, Foster countered. We calculated the odds. More humans died in traffic accidents during those 5 years than died in experimental jumps. It was an acceptable trade. Lieutenant Carr leaned close to Talon. "Commander, I am checking her claims. Our sensors confirm human ships in orbit around major council worlds. They appeared simultaneously, which should be impossible. Quantum folding would explain it, but the energy requirements are clearly not impossible if humans achieved it." Talon finished grimly. Foster continued her presentation, showing more innovations. Weapons that manipulated gravity to crush targets. Shields that phased matter into alternate dimensions. Communication systems that bypassed conventional space entirely, allowing instant messages across any distance. 6 months after humanity joined the Council, everything changed. Not gradually, but suddenly, like a dam breaking. The first sign was trade. Ambassador Neil Grant sat in his new office on Central Station, reviewing reports that made his head spin. Before humanity joined, galactic trade had been stable for centuries. The same routes, the same agreements, the same carefully balanced exchanges that kept everyone comfortable but never allowed real growth. Then humans introduced competition. "They are complaining again," said his assistant, Dr. Maya Torres. She was younger than Neil, brilliant with economics, and she seemed to enjoy the chaos they were creating. "The Terran Collective says our shipping rates are unfair. The Ploxan Federation claims we are violating trade protocols. And the Vexer Empire just accused us of economic warfare. Are we doing anything illegal?" Neil asked. "Not even slightly," Maya said with a grin. "We are just doing it better. Faster ships, lower costs, better service. The old transport guilds cannot compete." Neil rubbed his temples. The Council had not expected this. When they granted humanity membership, they thought they were adding one more voice to their thousands of species. They did not realize they were introducing a virus that would reshape everything. The transportation guilds had controlled galactic shipping for millennia. They set prices, controlled routes, and made sure no one could challenge their monopoly. It was profitable and stable, which the Council valued above all else. Then humans looked at the system and saw inefficiency everywhere. Routes that took weeks could be done in days with better navigation. Cargo that sat in warehouses for months could be delivered directly. Prices that were kept artificially high could be slashed while still making profit. Within 3 months, human shipping companies had captured 30% of the galactic market. Within 6 months, the old guilds were collapsing. "Let them complain," Neil said finally. "We are following every rule. If they cannot adapt, that is their problem." But it was not just shipping. Reports came from every sector. Human agricultural techniques were producing 3 times the yield of traditional methods. Human manufacturing was creating goods of equal quality at half the cost. Human entertainment was spreading through the galaxy like wildfire. Species that had never shown interest in alien culture suddenly obsessed with human music, stories, and games. The Council called an emergency session. This time, Neil stood before them not as a supplicant, but as an equal member. It felt different, more dangerous in some ways because now humanity had responsibilities, not just demands. "Ambassador Grant," the High Chancellor said, its electrical form crackling with barely contained frustration. "Your species is causing significant disruption to established galactic systems. We need to discuss limitations." "Limitations on what?" Neil asked calmly. "On your economic expansion, your cultural influence, your rate of change. The galaxy has maintained stable equilibrium for millions of years. In 6 months, you have destabilized dozens of major industries." "We have introduced competition," Neil corrected. "There is a difference between instability and progress. The old systems were not stable. They were stagnant. We are simply showing there are better ways." Commander Vrix, still serving as military advisor despite having voted against human membership, spoke up. "Better according to whom? Your methods may be efficient, but they destroy established order. Thousands of businesses are failing. Millions of workers are losing their positions. Species that have relied on certain economic models for generations are being forced to adapt or die." "Yes," Neil agreed. "That is how progress works. It is uncomfortable. But the alternative is worse. Stagnation leads to decay. The Council has been so focused on maintaining stability that you stopped growing. You stopped innovating. You became comfortable, and comfort is the enemy of advancement. Comfortable is not evil. said Representative Quinn, a floating jellyfish-like being who spoke through bioluminescent pulses. We achieved peace. We ended the ancient wars. We created a system where thousands of species coexist without destroying each other. That is worth protecting. Neil nodded respectfully. I agree. Peace is valuable. But what you have is not peace. It is suppression. You maintain order by making sure no one can become strong enough to challenge you. You prevent conflict by preventing change. Real peace comes from cooperation between equals, not from one power controlling everyone else. And you think humanity should be that equal power? Vrix demanded. We think everyone should be equal powers, Maya said, stepping forward to join Neil. That is the point. The Council system keeps most species weak on purpose. You control technology sharing, limit economic growth, and maintain barriers that prevent smaller civilizations from rising. We are not trying to replace you. We are trying to break the system that requires replacement. The High Chancellor's form brightened with anger. You accuse us of oppression again. Do you ever speak without making accusations? We speak truth, Neil said. And the truth is that your system is failing. Not because of us, but because it was always going to fail. Stagnant systems collapse eventually. We are just accelerating the timeline. Elder Tom, who had been silent until now, finally spoke. What do you propose, chaos? Letting every species do whatever they wish with no coordination? We propose freedom with responsibility, Maya said. She activated a holographic display showing a new model of galactic governance. Species govern themselves completely. No council approval needed for internal decisions. But species also bear full consequences for their actions. If they harm others, they face retaliation. If they break agreements, they lose trading partners. If they become aggressive, they face combined opposition. That is anarchy, Quinn protested. That is natural law, Neil countered. The same principles that govern individuals governing species. You are free to act, but others are free to respond. It creates balance through genuine interaction, not artificial control. It will lead to war, Vrix said flatly. Without council oversight, old conflicts will reignite. Species will attack each other. Maybe, Neil admitted. Or maybe they will choose cooperation because it benefits them more than conflict. Right now, species cooperate because the council forces them to. Imagine if they cooperated because they wanted to. That is stronger, more stable, and more sustainable. The debate continued for hours. Representatives raised concerns about specific scenarios, edge cases, potential disasters. Neil and Maya answered each one, showing how voluntary cooperation could handle problems that currently required council intervention. But the real test came from an unexpected source. A new representative arrived during the session, one who had not been present for the opening arguments. She was from the Krenth, the species Elder Tom had mentioned 50 years ago, the one that had been nearly destroyed by false accusations. I am Ambassador Lyra, the Krenth said, her scaled face showing age and wisdom. I was present during my species' trial when the council nearly destroyed us based on lies. We survived only because Elder Tom investigated. But we learned something that day. The council is not infallible. It makes mistakes, and those mistakes can be fatal. She turned to address the full assembly. Humanity is correct. The current system is broken. It was broken when it nearly killed my people. It was broken when it allowed corruption to fester for millennia. It was broken when it prioritized stability over justice. We should not fear change. We should fear remaining as we are. Other voices began joining her. Species that had been suppressed, overlooked, or marginalized by the Council's decisions. Species that saw in humanity's disruption an opportunity for their own advancement. Not all agreed, but enough did that the balance began shifting. Finally, the High Chancellor called for a vote. We will decide on a proposal. Should the Council maintain its current authority structure, or should we adopt a more decentralized model as humanity suggests? The voting took 3 days. Each species needed time to consult, to calculate benefits and risks, to decide which future they wanted. Neil spent those days meeting with representatives, answering questions, making alliances. He was exhausted but exhilarated. This was what diplomacy should be. Not begging for scraps, but building coalitions, finding common ground, creating something new. When the votes were finally tallied, the result was close but clear. 53% supported the new model. 47% wanted to maintain the old system. The galaxy would change. The High Chancellor accepted the decision with grace, though its electrical form flickered with what might have been sadness. The Council will restructure. Each species will govern itself fully. The central authority will become an advisory body only, with no power to enforce decisions. We will maintain communication networks, facilitate trade negotiations, and provide neutral ground for disputes. But we will not rule. Thank you, Neil said, and he meant it. This had been the goal all along. Not to conquer, not to control, but to free. Humanity had been given a gift 50 years ago when James Carter negotiated their autonomy. Now they were sharing that gift with everyone else, but as the session ended and representatives filed out, Elder Tom approached Neil. "You have won," the old being said. "You reshaped galactic civilization in 6 months. But be careful, young human. Freedom brings responsibility." 3 years after the Council's restructuring, the galaxy was burning. Captain Rachel Kim stood on the bridge of the warship Defiance, watching emergency broadcasts from 12 different systems. Fires, riots, battles. The freedom humanity had championed was being used to settle old scores. And millions were dying. "Another distress call?" reported Lieutenant Mark Stone, his face grim. "The Ploxin are attacking Terran colonies. They claim it is retaliation for economic sabotage from 50 years ago." 50 years, Rachel muttered. They held a grudge for 50 years, waiting for the Council to stop protecting them. "Should we respond?" Mark asked. Rachel wanted to say yes. Every human instinct screamed to help. But her orders were clear. Humanity had pushed for freedom. Now they had to let species use that freedom, even if they used it badly. "Negative," she said, the word tasting like ash. "Not our jurisdiction. Not our war." The bridge crew looked unhappy but said nothing. They understood the logic, even if they hated it. Earth's government had been clear. Humanity would not become the new council. They would not police the galaxy. They would defend their own interests, help their allies, but they would not impose their will on others. That was the whole point of the restructuring, but watching civilizations tear each other apart was harder than anyone had anticipated. The communication system beeped. Admiral Foster's face appeared on the screen, looking as tired as Rachel felt. "Captain Kim, new assignment. You are ordered to the Vraxian system. They have requested human mediation in their conflict with the Zeth." "Requested?" Rachel said, surprised. "They want us involved?" "Both sides do," Foster confirmed. "They are killing each other, but realize continued war benefits neither. They need a neutral party to negotiate. Congratulations. You are now a diplomat. I am a soldier, Admiral." "You are whatever humanity needs you to be," Foster replied. "The Vraxians and Zeth have been fighting for 2 months. 70 million dead. Both sides are exhausted but too proud to stop. You need to give them a reason to choose peace." Rachel nodded slowly. "What authority do I have?" "Whatever you can negotiate. Humanity has no official peacekeeping mandate, but we have reputation. We broke the Council. Many species see us as the new power broker. Use that perception." The transmission ended. Rachel looked at her crew. "Change course. Vraxian system. And someone pull up everything we know about this conflict." The Defiance arrived 3 days later to find a war zone. 2 fleets faced each other across an asteroid field, ships damaged, both sides preparing for another engagement. The Vraxians were insectoid warriors, proud and aggressive. The Zeth were amphibious strategists, cold and calculating. They had coexisted peacefully for millennia under Council oversight. Without that oversight, old territorial disputes had reignited. Rachel opened communication channels to both fleets simultaneously. "This is Captain Rachel Kim of the Human Federation. We have been invited to mediate. Both sides will cease fire immediately and send representatives to neutral ground." "You have no authority here," the Vraxian commander responded, its mandibles clicking with anger. "This is our system, and ours," the Zeth admiral added, its voice bubbling through its water-filled environment. "Humanity may have dismantled the Council, but you do not replace it. We do not answer to you." "True," Rachel agreed. "You do not answer to us. But you asked for help and we came. If you prefer to keep killing each other, we will leave. But know that while you fight, your enemies grow stronger. The Telvari Consortium is already claiming territory you both vacated. The Krinth Alliance is intercepting your trade ships. You are losing this war to species that are not even fighting you. Silence. Rachel could almost hear the calculation happening on both command decks. Finally, the Vraxian spoke. What do you propose? Neutral meeting, my ship. Unarmed delegates. We talk for 24 hours. If no agreement is reached, we leave and you continue your war. What do you have to lose? More silence. Then both commanders agreed. 6 hours later, Rachel sat across from two beings who clearly hated each other. The Vraxian representative, General Crix, kept its weapons visible despite the agreement to come unarmed. The Zeth diplomat, Minister Aloth, oozed moisture that indicated extreme stress. This is pointless, Crix said immediately. The Zeth violated the Crescent Treaty. They settled moons that belong to us. The treaty was never ratified, Aloth countered. And those moons were abandoned for 3 centuries. Unclaimed territory is available for settlement. It was not abandoned. It was reserved for future expansion. Then you should have expanded instead of sitting idle. Rachel let them argue for 30 minutes, taking notes, watching their patterns. Finally, she held up a hand. You are both right, she said. Both aliens turned to stare at her. The treaty was ambiguous, Rachel continued. The Vraxians believed they had claim. The Zeth believed the territory was available. Both acted in good faith based on their understanding. The problem was not malice. It was poor communication and no authority to clarify. The Council should have clarified, Crix said bitterly. They maintained the treaty archives. They should have prevented this confusion. But they are gone, Rachel said, and they are not coming back. So you have 2 choices. Spend the next decade fighting over who was right about a treaty that does not matter anymore, or admit that the old system is dead and build something new. What does new look like? Aloth asked carefully. Rachel pulled up a star map. This system has 12 habitable worlds. Currently, Vraxians claim 4, Zeth claim 3, and 5 are disputed. I propose this. 6 worlds for Vraxians, 6 for Zeth. Not based on old claims, but on current population and development needs. You split it evenly and agree that any future expansion requires negotiation between both species. That gives them more than they currently control, Crix protested. It also gives you more, Rachel pointed out. And it ends the war. Your species has lost 70 million people. How many more will you sacrifice for 3 additional worlds? But it sets precedent, Aloth said. If we compromise, others will think we are weak. Or they will think you are smart, Rachel countered. Strong enough to fight, wise enough to choose when not to. That is not weakness. That is strength. The negotiation continued for 18 hours. Rachel mediated, suggested compromises, found creative solutions to seemingly impossible problems. Slowly, grudgingly, the 2 species moved toward agreement. The breakthrough came when Mark brought in data showing the economic cost of the war. Both species were hemorrhaging resources. Their economies were collapsing. Meanwhile, species that had stayed neutral were absorbing their market share. The Vraxians and Zeth were not just fighting each other. They were destroying themselves. You are winning against each other but losing to everyone else, Rachel said bluntly. Is that victory? Crix's mandibles clicked slowly. No, it is defeat disguised as pride. Then choose differently, Rachel urged. Make peace. Rebuild. Become stronger together than you ever were separately. That is the point of freedom. You can choose cooperation just as easily as conflict. Finally, after 22 hours, they reached agreement. The Crescent Accords, named after the disputed territory that had started the war. 6 worlds each, shared development rights for resource-rich asteroids, a joint defense agreement against external threats, cultural exchange programs to prevent future misunderstandings. As the delegates prepared to leave, Aloth approached Rachel privately. You understand we may have signed this just to end the current crisis, the Zeth said quietly. Future disputes will arise. What then? Then you negotiate again, Rachel said. That is how peaceful coexistence works. Constant effort, continuous dialogue. The Council made it easy by forcing compliance. Real peace is harder because it requires choice. Every day you choose to honor agreements. Every day you choose cooperation over conflict. That choice is what makes it real. Aloth's skin patterns shifted, indicating thoughtful consideration. Humanity has a strange perspective. You make difficult things sound simple. They are simple, Rachel said, just not easy. News of the Crescent Accord spread quickly. Within weeks, other species were requesting human mediation for their conflicts. Humanity found itself in an unexpected role, not as rulers, not as enforcers, but as mediators, facilitators, the ones who helped others find solutions. Admiral Foster summoned Rachel for a briefing 6 months after the Vraxian-Zeth agreement. "You started something," Foster said, not sounding entirely pleased. "We now have 50 formal requests for mediation. Humans are being called to conflicts across the galaxy." "Is that bad?" Rachel asked. "It is exhausting and dangerous. We become targets. If mediation fails, both sides might blame us. If we show favoritism, we make enemies. If we refuse to help, we appear hypocritical. So what do we do?" Foster leaned back, looking at the star map showing the expanding human presence. "We keep doing it. We train more mediators. We develop protocols. We build a reputation for fairness. And we accept that this is who we are now. Not warriors, not rulers, but problem solvers," Rachel smiled. "There are worse things to be known for." "True. But Rachel, be careful. We are walking a dangerous line. We dismantled the council because it was too controlling. If we are not careful, we become the new authority by default. Species start relying on us instead of solving their own problems." 10 years after the council's fall, humanity faced its greatest test. Director Thomas Ward stood in the emergency command center deep beneath Earth's surface, staring at reports that made his blood run cold. The room was filled with military officers, diplomats, and scientists, all looking to him for answers he did not have. "Confirm the readings," he ordered. Dr. Sarah Chen, now head of xenoscience research, worked her console with shaking hands. "Confirmed. Unknown vessels entering the galaxy from deep space, not using any known travel method. Numbers are... Director, there are millions of them." The main display showed the threat. A fleet so massive it dwarfed anything the galaxy had ever seen. Ships of bizarre design, clearly advanced, moving in perfect coordination toward populated space. They had appeared at the galaxy's edge 3 days ago and were accelerating inward. "First contact?" Thomas asked. "Attempted on all frequencies," reported Colonel James Park, head of communications. No response. "They ignore every message." "But Director, we analyzed their trajectory. They are not exploring. They are not scouting. They are invading." Thomas felt the weight of every decision humanity had made settling on his shoulders. They had broken the council. They had championed freedom. They had reshaped galactic civilization. And now, with no central authority to coordinate defense, an alien armada was coming to destroy everything. "Send priority 1 message to all species," Thomas ordered. "We have incoming hostiles. Massive fleet. Unknown origin. All available forces needed for defense." The responses came quickly. Too quickly. And all saying variations of the same thing. The Vraxians say it is not their problem unless the invaders attack their territory directly. The Zeth request evidence that the threat is real before committing. Resources. The Telvari demand payment for military assistance. The Horinth are willing to help, but only if we guarantee protection for their homeworld. First, Thomas closed his eyes. This was the nightmare scenario. A crisis that required unified response from species that had spent the last decade learning to act independently. They had freedom now, but freedom included the freedom to be selfish. "How long until the invaders reach populated space?" he asked. "At current speed, 6 days until they hit the outer colonies, 3 weeks until they reach major population centers." 6 days. Not enough time to build an alliance. Not enough time to negotiate. Barely enough time to prepare Earth's own defenses. Admiral Foster appeared via holographic communication. She was commanding the human defense fleet near the galaxy's rim, trying to get a closer look at the invaders. "Director, I am uploading tactical data now. These ships are using technology we have never seen. They can phase through solid matter, making conventional weapons mostly useless. They are shielded against energy weapons. And they are not stopping to communicate or negotiate. They destroy any craft that approaches." "What are our chances?" Thomas asked. Foster's hesitation told him everything. "If humanity fights alone?" "None. We cannot stop them. No species can. This requires everything the galaxy has working together. We need the Council. The Council is gone. We made sure of that. Then we need to rebuild it. Fast. Thomas knew she was right, but the bitter irony was not lost on him. Humanity had spent a century fighting against centralized galactic authority. Now they needed exactly that to survive. Send another message, Thomas said. Emergency summit. Central Station. Every species sends representatives. 24 hours. They will not all come, Colonel Park warned. Then we save the ones who do and let the others face the consequences of their choice. The next day, Central Station's main hall was fuller than it had been in years, but still far from complete. About 60% of galactic species sent representatives. The rest either did not believe the threat was real, thought they could defend themselves, or simply did not care about anyone beyond their own borders. Thomas addressed the assembly, feeling Elder Tom's absence keenly. The ancient being had died 2 years earlier, and Thomas missed his wisdom desperately. You all know why we are here, Thomas began. An invasion force is entering the galaxy. It is larger than anything we have faced, more advanced than anything we understand, and it will destroy us unless we work together. Together? Representative Mimrix, a Telvari merchant, said mockingly. Like the Council forced us to work together? I thought humanity valued freedom and independence. Now you want us to surrender our autonomy for the common good? I want you to choose cooperation, Thomas said carefully. Not because anyone forces you, but because it serves your interests. These invaders will not negotiate. They will not trade. They will not leave you alone if you stay neutral. They will erase you. Working together is not surrender. It is survival. So humanity admits their experiment failed, said Minister Voth, a Zeth who had been skeptical of the restructuring from the start. You destroyed the system that kept us safe and now expect us to rebuild it when convenient. The old system kept you controlled, Thomas shot back. Not safe. The Council prevented small conflicts, but would have been just as paralyzed by this threat. At least now we can choose to act quickly instead of waiting for committee approval. Choose to die together instead of separately? Mimrix said. What a comfort. Arguments erupted across the hall. Species blamed humanity for the crisis. Others blamed each other. Some proposed surrender, others individual defense, others still trying to find diplomatic solutions to an enemy that refused all contact. Thomas let them argue for 30 minutes. Then he activated the main display, showing footage Admiral Foster had captured. The invaders had reached an outer colony world. The recording showed them systematically destroying it. Not conquering, not occupying, destroying, every structure demolished, every ship vaporized. The planet scoured of life in less than 2 hours. Then the fleet moved on to the next target. The hall fell silent. That is what we face, Thomas said quietly. Not conquerors who want territory, not enemies who want resources, exterminators who want nothing except our absence. They have destroyed 6 colonies in 3 days. In 3 weeks, they will reach major population centers. In 2 months, they could sterilize every inhabited world in the galaxy. What do you propose? Asked Ambassador Lyra, the Krenth who had supported humanity's restructuring years ago. How do we fight something that advanced? We combine everything we have, Thomas said. Human quantum folding technology for rapid deployment. Raxian military discipline, Zeth strategic planning, Telvari resource networks. Every species contributes what they do best. We create a unified defense force. Temporary alliance dissolved after the threat is eliminated. But while it exists, we fight as one. Under whose command? Voth demanded. Who leads this alliance? The answer will reveal who really controls it. Thomas had expected this question and dreaded it. Any species he named would be accused of power grabbing. But they needed an answer. Rotating command, he said finally. 3 species at a time, cycling every engagement. Vraxians for military tactics. Zeth for strategic overview. Humans for technological integration. Every major battle, leadership rotates to different species. No one controls everything. Everyone contributes. It was not perfect. It would be messy, probably inefficient, certainly frustrating, but it was the only model that preserved independence while enabling cooperation. The debate continued for 12 more hours. Representatives raised concerns, demanded guarantees, negotiated terms, but slowly, grudgingly, they moved toward agreement. not because they trusted each other, not because they believed in unity, but because the alternative was extinction. The Galactic Defense Coalition was formed with 63 member species. Not everyone, not even a majority. But enough. Admiral Foster took command of the first engagement. She had 3 weeks to integrate forces from dozens of species into something resembling a coordinated fleet. It should have been impossible, but humans had learned something from their century in the dead zones. Impossible just meant difficult. The first battle happened near the Vraxian frontier. The Defense Coalition met the invaders with everything they had. 2 million ships from 63 species, coordinated by Vraxian tactical doctrine, positioned by Zeth strategic planning, using human quantum folding to appear exactly where needed. It was chaos. Beautiful, terrible chaos. Ships that had never fought together, barely understood each other's communication protocols, using completely different weapons systems and tactical doctrines. The invaders should have torn them apart, but the invaders had made an assumption. They assumed the galaxy would respond like every other galaxy they had encountered. Centralized, predictable, following established patterns. The Defense Coalition was none of those things. Vraxian ships attacked with suicidal aggression that made no logical sense but broke the invaders' formations. Zeth forces appeared from unexpected angles, exploiting gaps the invaders did not know existed. Human vessels used quantum folding to teleport behind enemy lines, attack, and vanish before retaliation. And species the invaders had never heard of contributed weapons, tactics, and strategies that broke every convention. The galaxy fought like it had learned to live. Chaotically, independently, but with just enough coordination to be effective. The battle lasted 37 hours. When it ended, the invaders had lost 30% of their fleet. The Defense Coalition had lost 45%.